Hello, you're watching TVP World Talks. I'm Jonasz Rewiński. Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, has received the Charlemagne Award for European Unification. Upon accepting the prize, she urged Europe to throw off the shackles and meet the challenges of the changing international order. History is calling on us now. Just like back in 1989, when the winds of change swept through Europe, von der Leyen remarked, "But can the European Union withstand the new wind of change? One that seems to be blowing from many directions, some of them rather unexpected." Joining us now is Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka, Professor of Political Science at the University of Wrocław. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Hello from Florence. Good morning. I'm a visiting professor at the European University Institute here these days, and this is a very important place as well for the European Union. That's why it's an important detail.
And thank you very much, much appreciated, for providing us with that particular bit of information there as well, because as we have already stated, we're going to be talking about European integration. We're going to be talking in particular about Ursula von der Leyen. What do you think about her latest statements concerning the wind of change? Do you think Europe is ready for that wind of change? And is it comparable to what happened back in 1989?
Well, this prize that she received is an important statement because it is awarded to people and institutions who serve to the benefit of the unity of Europe, European integration, solidarity, etc. There have been big names who were awarded the same prize. Just to mention a few: Pope Francis, Emmanuel Macron, Bronisław Geremek from Poland, also Donald Tusk. And von der Leyen is actually one of the only 7 women in the history of European integration, because the prize is 70 years long. It has a history since 1950. So she's one of the 7 women who were awarded. This is an important thing, and I'm saying that as a woman as well, because it is a very male-dominated group of awardees. So what did she say? As you rightly pointed, she related to the breakthrough moment for Europe. We've heard that many times, basically, but this is a very interesting time because she's speaking at the moment where Europe is challenged so much from the outside and also challenged by the traditional allies. I'm referring here to the US. So she was referring indirectly to our European over-reliance on US security provisions, etc. And she pointed out that Europe has to take opportunity of that particular moment to emancipate itself from these dependencies. And she said that this requires courage. Well, of course, this is a lofty speech. This is a speech that should carry some message. And I think that there was a message because she looked in the past. She referred to the very painful history of Germany as well, because let's remind everybody that this prize is awarded by a German city of Aachen, the city that was very much destroyed by the Second World War, but it was also a city of a revival of European integration. And many founding fathers of the European integration have been awarded this very prize in that particular little city. So she referred to that very painful past of Europe, but she also praised our determination to come from where we were to where we are now. And I think this is very important to underline at this moment, a huge success of the European integration. And also the fact that many years we have been able to maintain peace on our continent. So when she was basically referring to that achievement, she also said that there are challenges ahead, and she basically pointed out to 4 things. First of all, security and ensuring peace. So Europe has to get a grip of its own defense spending and be able to support Ukraine and also ensure its own security autonomy. Then she was also referring to, obviously, competitiveness and economic strength, rule of law and democracy, as well as the greening of Europe, so the climate policy.
So let's talk about these in turn, but first we need to mention that according to Eurobarometer, the confidence of Europeans in the European project is also growing. So there are positive signs, there are signs that European integration is something that is appreciated, but then it's also facing challenges, right? Because the next batch of countries that Ursula von der Leyen mentioned as prospective members, they are facing challenges of their own. Ukraine in the middle of a war and also being opposed by Hungary. Hungary says that they are not going to allow Ukraine to become a member of the EU. Then we have the Balkans, and all of these countries have been waiting for quite a while. They are complaining that the EU is not doing enough to admit them, but also they again have their own issues. Do you think that European integration is actually facing a bit of a crisis today? And can the EU counter these negative trends to make it another success story?
Well, let's stop for a moment on the Eurobarometer and the new public opinion polls results that you have quoted. It is a very important moment because we see a trend. Since the pandemics in 2020 until today, the trust in the European Union has been steadily growing. And today, as we know, it's 52%. 52% of Europeans. Is it a lot or is it not a lot? Well, I think we can find the answer if we look at the national level trust in national institutions and like the governments and the parliaments. And it is actually appealing, and it is actually kind of a emergency call, because we see that trust in the European Union is relatively much higher than in national institutions. If we look at the statistics, generally only 36% of Europeans trust their national governments, whereas 55% trust the European Parliament and 52% to the European Union. What does that mean? Well, if we showed that statistics to the nationalist populist, I think we would put their narrative upside down, because they usually say that the EU does not have any democratic credibility. People don't trust it. People don't understand it. People don't recognize it. So if we look at this context, we would say that it's the other way around. The problem lies in national politics. Of course, there are countries where trust in governments is higher, and we can quote them. Denmark can be proud, Sweden, Luxembourg, the trust over 60%, even 74% for Luxembourg. But the majority of EU countries, of the 27, have quite low level of trust. What do they do usually? There is another context to that. Many national politicians, when something goes wrong, blame Brussels, right? They say, oh, that was the European Union. Even now in our presidential campaign, we can see a lot of that rhetoric, even from the mainstream part of the political spectrum. But I think we should see this.
The European Union has lots of confidence placed in it, but it also has quite a lot to prove today, because, as we've mentioned, there is this inflection point. The EU must, for example, reinvigorate the European defense industry. Do you think it's going to be capable of doing that while also maintaining the course for enlargement? And coming back to the question of countries that want to join, that they've been waiting for quite a while, are they going to finally become, full-fledged EU member states within a reasonable time frame?
Yes, I forgot to mention that one of the very important moments in the speech was enlargement paradigm that Ursula von der Leyen mentioned as a geopolitical moment for the EU, as the next unification moment. And of course, this is on track. But enlargement requires reforms. Reforms both at the EU level and reforms in the candidate states. And I want to go back once again to the trust context. I think that the European Union now, looking at these opinion polls, is finding itself in a very positive credibility context. It's a very good opportunity for the EU leaders to talk about reforms, to talk about reform of defense policy, foreign policy, taxing, health policy, etc., because they have a clear democratic mandate from European citizens saying we want that. Let's just say that 81% of Europeans, according to this Eurobarometer, want common EU defense. So if we have such a big mandate, who on earth has 81% of a political mandate to carry out certain policies or decisions? So this should be very much emphasized nowadays in decision-making circles, that yes, we have this mandate to carry out decisions. Now, what do we need more? We need political will. And this political will comes from the capitals, from the executives, not only from the European Commission. The Commission is an honest broker. It can provide ideas. It can help to execute policies, implement them, but the will to decide about certain steps come from member states, and they have the mandate to do that.
Karolina Borońska-Hryniewiecka, visiting professor at the European University Institute, was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your expertise.
Thank you very much.
And I'm Jonasz Rewiński. You're watching TVP World. Please stay with us for more latest news, updates and commentary.